The scar on Dow's 3 was a violent interruption to the desert's eternal silence, a furrow of scorched earth where a piece of the sky had died. Jake Novak, a man who read the history of ships in their shattered bones, crouched by the wreckage, steaming coffee in hand, studying the anomaly. This wasn't standard orbital debris. The metal shimmered with an organic self-healing sheen, its surface pulsing like a dying heart. It was elegant, impossibly advanced, and unmistakably alien. Jake knew the salvage station protocols by rote. Quarantine, report, wait. But the cockpit's fractured canopy revealed a slumped form, and Jake had never let a rulebook stand between him and a living soul. He pried the seal. Inside slumped a figure of striking otherworldly grace. Pale blue skin was marked by shifting geometric tattoos that flickered like circuitry. Pointed ears framed a face of sharp, elegant lines. Her armor seemed to absorb the harsh sunlight. She breathed, but barely, ignoring the frantic chirps from his Cums's station manager, warning of biological hazards and diplomatic cataclysms. Jake carefully extracted her. He carried the stranger to his workshop, a sanctuary of jury-rigged electronics and stubborn hope. Completely unaware, he had just altered the trajectory of galactic history. She awoke 12 hours later, eyes opening to reveal irises of piercing, luminous gold. Her cover story was almost too perfect. Zara, she whispered, private security, a cargo run. Pirates. It was a narrative Jake had heard a dozen times from bruised smugglers on the rim, but Zara didn't move like a mercenary. As she recovered and they began the arduous task of repairing her ship, the discrepancies mounted like pressure in a sealed reactor. She possessed an intuitive grasp of quantum engineering that bordered on the supernatural, rerouting power couplings and optimizing crystal matrices with a casual brilliance that left Jake breathless. She claimed she'd had good teachers, but her hands moved with the muscle memory of a master architect, not a hired gun. In the quiet hum of the workshop, amidst the smell of ozone and old lubricant, a fragile camaraderie bloomed. Shared labor has a way of stripping away pretense, revealing the person beneath the persona. Yet, every time Jake probed asking about the politics of the Corps, or the peculiar military make of her armor-shade, deflected with a diplomat's silken skill. The fracture came on the fourth day. Jake caught a glimpse of her rebooting communication panel. The encryption headers on a queued message were not standard military. They were imperial, your imperial majesty, the header read. The confrontation that followed was quiet but seismic. Zara didn't deny it. The armor, the knowledge, the regal bearing it, all coalesced into a terrifying truth. She was the Empress of the Veltani Hegemony, fleeing a coup led by traditionalists who viewed her reforms as fatal weakness. She was hiding in a scrapyard to prevent a war. But secrets of this magnitude echo. Their sanctuary had an expiration date. The proximity alarm screamed its raw, electronic warning just as the final drive conduit clicked into place. 3 Imperial Reaper-class warships dropped from hyperspace, their silhouettes blotting out the stars, their intent unmistakable. They were not here to rescue, they were here to erase. We have to go. Now Zara's voice shed all casual warmth, becoming the steel of absolute authority. Their escape plan was a desperate gamble, a single-seat fighter for 2. Jake jammed himself into the claustrophobic, tool-strewn cargo compartment, a space meant for equipment, not life. What followed was 43 minutes of pure, distilled terror. From his cramped vantage, Jake watched the tactical display as Zara's mind fused directly with the ship via a neural interface. She didn't just fly, she thought the vessel through the void, executing evasive spirals and sudden translite microjumps that defied physics. Evading the grasping fingers of gravity nets, the ship groaned, its frame protesting the brutal They were a gnat fighting a hurricane, but their gnat was piloted by a genius. With the hull shrieking its final protest, they tore free of the gravity well and punched into the swirling blue maw of hyperspace, leaving their hunters clawing at empty stardust. Their destination was Velani Prime. It was less a planet and more a constructed marvel, a glittering jewel of crystalline spires and floating gardens housing billions. Landing at the Imperial Palace was a surreal transition from dusty solitude. Here, surrounded by the weight of millennia of history, the stakes became terrifyingly concrete. Admiral Thiver, the coup's architect, had mobilized the 8th Fleet, broadcasting that the Empress was dead. The hegemony teetered on the precipice of fratricidal war. The Chancellor advised a swift, brutal show of force, a clash of fleets to burn the rebellion to ash. But standing on her strategy platform, Zara looked at Jake, the engineer who had fixed her ship, and seen her, not a crown. She recognized the old, rotting paradigm of secrecy and domination for what it was, the very poison that threatened her reign. We will not fight them with weapons, she declared, her gaze fixed on the gathering armadas glittering on the holomat. We will fight them with the future. The plan was a masterstroke of technological diplomacy. In a frantic 48 hours, the palace transformed into a high-stakes forum. Jake, the backwater salvager, found himself center stage, translating the principles of Veltani miracles for ambassadors from a dozen rival powers. Zara offered the hegemony's most guarded treasures, the neural interfaces, sustainable singularity cores, and organic synthesis tech to her neighbors in exchange for sworn alliances. It was a gambit that undercut Thiever's entire justification, turning potential enemies into vested partners. When Admiral Thiever's flagship finally arrived to demand surrender, he did not find an isolated, vulnerable monarch. He found a united galactic coalition. His narrative of a weak empress crumbled against the reality of a leader who strengthened the hegemony by opening its vaults. The fleet stood down. The coup dissolved not in blood, but in the face of a superior idea. In the calm that followed, as the galaxy began its slow, new work of integration, Zara found Jake on a balcony overlooking the City of Light. The formal distance of the court lingered, but they had shared too much survival for ceremony. She offered him a new path, chief engineer for interspecies technological cooperation. It promised a lifetime of political headaches, impossible problems, and the chance to build a universe defined by connection, not conquest. Will the job description include casual conversation? Jake asked, the question hanging in the air between the man and the monarch. Zara, she smiled, the same genuine smile from the workshop. Always. Jake looked out at the infinite horizon, where ships from 100 worlds now moved in harmonious patterns. He had spent his life salvaging the past. Now, standing beside the woman who had crashed into his world and rewritten gravity itself, he was ready to engineer the future. He accepted. The work would be hard. The company, however, would be extraordinary. After all, the best stories don't end at the crash site. They begin with the repair. If you believe in building bridges between the stars, please like, subscribe, and share. We bring humanity's finest stories to the forefront.